Hello, and today I'm going to be talking about my first month learning Unreal Engine, and also the game I'm trying to make. Me and a few friends had an idea for a game. Originally it was just two of us, and we came up with this idea years ago, and back then I was super new to game development as a whole and I was using Roblox. But now we thought, well, we never finished it in Roblox, so why not turn it into a real game? I have a whole lot more experience now, and then came a big question, which is what engine do I use? And the big ones are Unity, Unreal, and Godot. I spent some time in Godot, I'm personally not a huge fan, it's alright. Unity, I just don't like the company behind it, and so I picked Unreal Engine. It just made the most sense. And this ended up being a great decision. It's actually surprisingly similar to Roblox Studio in a lot of ways, and that made it really easy to get used to it. While there are a few things that I'm still not great at, I've gotten all of the basics down, and I've made some serious progress compared to what I thought I would do. I was told that this is very hard to learn, and that this would probably take me a lot of time to make. Some people were saying like 5 years, but I'm pretty confident I can get it out in under 5 years. The game we're trying to make is a horror game, which, yeah, you probably assume it's some sort of mascot horror game, because that's all indie developers ever want to make, but no. We had this idea years ago, which is to make a game where each level is focused on a different phobia. And I think that this, if executed correctly, could end up turning out to be a very, very good game. But why not just show you what I have so far? Let's get right into this, shall we? Right away I got to work trying to learn Unreal without following any sort of tutorial or video. I got some basics down, and the hardest part in the first week was trying to figure out how to put a camera on a third-person player model, because I wanted the player to be able to see it. This was harder than I thought it would be, but eventually I got it working. After that, my next plan was to add animation, because right now you couldn't see your player model because it was completely broken. I found out what the problem was and found out that if I added animations to it, it would probably fix it. And it did, and you could finally see your player model, and there were some decent animations. I got the model and all the animations from a site called Mixamo because of the fact that I don't have really that many skills to make them. Eventually, I hope to replace all of these with actual original assets, but for now, we're going to be using a lot of royalty-free assets that I'm allowed to use, and some of them are probably going to make it into the final game. At this point, we were already like 2 weeks in, approaching 3 weeks, and so I needed to get some serious progress done. And so my next goal was to implement sprinting and crouching, which I thought would be a lot more complicated than it really is, but it's actually really simple. Soon enough, I had both working completely fine in the game with very minor issues, and after patching all of those up, I got to work on the first level of the game, which probably won't be fully finished until like this summer, but you know what, for now, I just wanted to get the basic map done. As I said earlier, we're planning on making each level based on a different fear. However, maybe future levels will have 2 or 3 fears, I don't know yet. Regardless, every level being based on a different fear means that each level also needs to have some sort of theme. I won't spoil which levels, but one of the levels' theme is submarine, and another one is kind of factorial type. This one is themed on an art gallery. I found out that it's actually really hard to make an art gallery, seeing none of us can make paintings. And so I looked for royalty-free ones and managed to find some really old paintings from the 1817 or 1600s and used those in the game. On top of that, there's gonna be a lot of building, and I spent a lot of time and the map isn't even close to done and it's barely decorated. I have a lot more time to spend, but eventually this will actually start looking good. This is what we have so far, and, well, I have a lot more to make. However, at this point we were already 3 weeks into the project and we'd actually gotten a decent amount of work done. I did all of the Unreal Engine side stuff, and then there were 3 other team members, who I should probably mention. My friend Fair, he was in charge of the music, and he's been working on the first song, and hopefully I'll be able to showcase at least a snippet of it in the next devlog. Ported, who has been in charge of pretty much everything no one else wants to do. He's been left with a lot of the smaller tasks like making level layouts and more. And last but certainly not least, Wavering, who is the one doing 3D models, except he has no idea how to do Blender yet, and so he's still learning. At this point, we'd spent 3 weeks working on the project, and I'd actually gotten a lot of stuff done. We had sprinting and all the movement stuff I wanted to implement, and we even started working on level 1. However, I had a lot more to get done, and so I got to work. The next thing I wanted to implement was a flashlight, which I thought would be extremely difficult, but turns out it's actually not that hard, which turns out a lot of things are really not that difficult to do in Unreal. After a few days, I finally managed to get the flashlight working. It wasn't very visually good, but we'll come back and finish that later, because right now I just want to get the game to a playable state. Right now, it's not at all playable, but maybe in 2 or 3 months, the first level will actually be fully playable. I've given myself a ton of due dates, so I can make sure to keep working on this game, even if I feel unmotivated. Now, at this point, most of the development for the game was going flawlessly. We were doing everything easily, and we didn't really come across many obstacles. But I would come across a very large obstacle. Being a door. Yeah. So turns out doors are really easy to make. I found that out. But first, I wanted to make a really nice door, where you would have a full animation opening it and closing it behind you. The problem is, 1, I didn't have an animation, and 2, I had no idea how to actually implement this into the game. And so I spent an entire weekend, pretty much non-stop trying to get this working, and then another 3 days before I finally decided to just settle for a normal door. The normal door worked completely fine, and I really should not have spent all of that time working on a door that didn't work, because I could have been doing much more important stuff. Now, at this point, we were 4 weeks in, and we were approaching the first real month of development, which would be at the end of 5 weeks. And I really wanted to make a devlog for this, which is what I'm working on now, in the 5th week. But in the 4th week, I wanted to get some last final things done for the game, so the devlog would seem at least decent. However, I wanted to mainly just focus on the map of the game and making some nice little areas. The first thing was implementing a closet. I made this supply closet and spent a good 3 hours on it, mainly because Unreal kept crashing. But it actually looks okay. I should probably add some more decorations to it, but at least for this build of the game, it works for now. I'll of course be enhancing everything here later, so if the game looks incomplete, that's cause it is. I have a whole lot more I need to do. There's a lot of just small things I'm going to tweak, and if you guys have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments. Now I wanted to work on another piece of the map, and so over the weekend I got a really nice model, gave it a new texture, and made this statue room. The main reason why there's a room filled with identical statues is because it was in the old Roblox project, and I have a lot of good memories of that project, and so I thought implementing at least some of the things from it makes sense. Of course, I will probably change this later, but it is a pretty important room because it's going to give you one of the key things you need to finish the level. That pretty much sums up everything I've done so far, but that's not everything we've done. Ported has made the level layouts for not just the first level, which we saw earlier, but also the 3rd and 4th level. However, the 4th level one isn't completely done yet. Regardless, on top of doing that, he also made a prototype logo for us. It looks actually not that bad. It is very similar to some other logos, but it's gonna work at least for now, and we'll probably change it later. That's not all though, because Wavering has made a simple spotlight model that will be used in the first level. If so, you saw how there were lights that were pointing on each of the paintings, well, this is going to be what's actually creating that light. Fair has actually done a lot of work when it comes to music, seeing we got it. I think 2 guitar parts and a drum part done for the first song. I worked with him on that, and we actually got some serious progress. This weekend he'll be doing the piano and synth for it to truly finish the main theme of the game. And that's pretty much it, at least for now. I'll try to get another devlog out next month, however, if I end up being too focused on the game and other important things I have to do, I'll probably release a longer one in May. Until then, though, don't expect me to be completely silent, because if I remember to, I'll upload on my community post, maybe some minor updates about the game. Obviously, I'll only do that if this video does well, because why bother talking to no one? I really hope this video at least gets 100 or 200 views, because that would be very nice, and it would allow me to start gaining a few people who are actually interested to see where this project goes. Also, hope you guys are fine with Red Dead footage for this, half the video. I don't have enough actual good gameplay footage of the game, so I'm just using that because it's decently entertaining. That's it for today, and bye.